Ever seen someone so entitled they smashed a gas pump because their credit card got declined, flooding the lot with fuel? That's what Karen did at my station, but she didn't know I'd make sure she paid for every drop. My name's Mike, and this is the story of how one woman's tantrum turned my quiet gas station into a battleground, and how our town came out stronger. Have you ever dealt with a Karen at a gas station? Share your story in the comments. It was a scorching July afternoon at Mike's fuel stop, my little slice of pride in the heart of our small American town. The air buzzed with the steady hum of fuel pumps, each one chugging away like an old friend. The smell of gasoline hung heavy, mixing with the faint sweetness of spilled soda, and the earthy scent of dust kicked up by pickup trucks. Regulars milled about. Old man Jenkins topping off his rusty Chevy, Sarah from the diner grabbing a quick fill before her shift, and a couple of kids on bikes circling the lot, their laughter cutting through the chatter. This was my world, built on fair prices and a promise to keep folks moving. I'm Mike, 50 years old, a former mechanic who traded wrenches for a gas station 15 years ago. I bought this place with my savings, turned it from a rundown pit stop into the kind of spot where people linger to swap stories. My hands are still calloused from years under hoods, and I wear my work boots like a badge of honor. Running this station isn't just a job, it's a commitment to the folks who rely on me. I'm out here every day, checking nozzles, wiping down pumps, and helping customers like their family. When Mrs. Carter forgets her PIN, I'm there to run her card inside. When a trucker needs a jump start, I've got cables ready. That's who I am, and that's what keeps this place humming. But even the best days have their hiccups. One of our pumps, number 3, that stubborn old beast, had a card reader with a bad habit of flagging declined cards. It wasn't broken, mind you, just picky. Sometimes a bank system would throw up a fraud alert, or a card would glitch for no reason. Most folks took it in stride. They'd try another card, pay cash, or call their bank to sort it out. I'd explain it was likely on their end, and we'd laugh it off over a coffee from the station's ancient machine. It was a minor annoyance, nothing worth losing your cool over. Until today. That afternoon, the sun was beating down, turning the asphalt into a griddle. I was out by pump 4, wiping down the nozzle with a rag, when I caught a glimpse of the lot. A shiny black SUV rolled in, gleaming like it just left a showroom. It pulled up to pump 3, and out stepped a woman who looked like she'd walked off a reality show set. Late 40s. Blonde bob haircut sharp enough to cut glass, wearing a flashy red jacket and designer sunglasses perched on her nose. Her heels clicked on the pavement like she owned the place. I didn't know her name yet, but I'd soon learn to call her Karen. I kept an eye on her while I worked, not because I was nosy, but because you learn to spot trouble after years in this business. She swiped her card at pump 3, jabbed at the keypad and swiped again. The screen flashed red, declined. She muttered something, tried once more, and got the same result. Her shoulders stiffened, and I could feel the storm brewing from 20 feet away. Most folks would have shrugged and come inside to talk it out. Not her. She slammed her card against the pump like it had personally insulted her, then started marching toward the station door, her face redder than her jacket. I set my rag down and headed inside, ready to play peacemaker. The bell above the door jingled as I stepped behind the counter, where my cashier, Tommy, was ringing up a pack of gum for Sarah. The air-conditioned cool was a relief, but it did nothing to ease the tension I felt coming. Outside, pump 3 sat quiet, its red, declined message glowing like a warning sign. I'd dealt with frustrated customers before. Heck, it's part of the gig. But something about this woman's strut told me she wasn't here to talk. She was here to make a scene. Inside the station was a familiar comfort. The shelves were stocked with chips, jerky, and motor oil. The coffee machine gurgled in the corner, and a radio played classic rock low enough not to drown out conversation. Tommy, a lanky 19-year-old who'd been with me since high school, gave me a nod as I took my spot by the register. "Trouble coming?" he asked, glancing out the window. I shrugged, but my gut said he was right. I've seen plenty of folks get mad over a declined card. Call it a bad day, a tight budget, whatever. But this woman, she wasn't just mad. She was ready to turn a glitch into a war. As I waited for her to burst through the door, I thought about the station, this place I'd poured my life into. It wasn't just pumps and concrete. It was a hub for the town. People came here to fuel up, sure, but also to catch up, to lean on each other. I'd seen first dates spark over slushies and old-timers trade war stories by the air pump. That's what I was protecting, what I'd always protect. And no amount of yelling was going to change that. Then it came. The sound of her voice, sharp and loud enough to wake the dead, cutting through the hum of the lot. "Who runs this scam of a station?" she bellowed, her heels clicking closer. I straightened up, took a breath and braced myself. Trouble wasn't just brewing, it was here. Karen wasn't just mad about her card. She was ready to make it my station's problem. The bell above the door jangled like a fire alarm as she stormed into Mike's fuel stop, her red jacket flashing under the fluorescent lights. Her blonde bob bounced with every furious step, and those designer sunglasses were now shoved up onto her head, revealing eyes narrowed to slits. The shiny SUV parked at Pump 3 seemed to gleam with the same entitled swagger she carried. I stood behind the counter, hands steady, while Tommy froze mid-transaction, Sarah's gum still in his hand. The air felt thick like the calm before a thunderstorm. "Who's in charge of this rip-off joint?" Karen snapped, planting herself in front of the counter. Her voice carried the kind of venom that made heads turn. Sarah raised an eyebrow, pocketing her change, while a trucker by the coffee machine glanced over, curious. I met Karen's glare, keeping my tone even. "That'd be me, ma'am." "Mike, owner." "What's the issue?" I already knew the answer, but in this business you let the customer talk first. Sometimes they just need to vent. "Not Karen. Your pump's broken." She spat, jabbing a manicured finger toward the door. "It keeps declining my card, and I'm not standing out there like an idiot all day. Fix it, or give me my gas for free." Her demand hung in the air, absurd but delivered with such conviction I almost laughed. Tommy coughed, hiding a smirk, but I stayed calm. "Let's sort this out," I said, stepping around the counter. Pump 3's card reader can be finicky. It's usually a bank issue, fraud alert, maybe, or a glitch. "Did you try another card?" Karen's face twisted like I'd insulted her family. "Another card? Do I look like I carry a wallet full of backups?" "This is your fault, not mine." She crossed her arms, her gold bracelets jangling. "I've got places to be, and your scam machine is wasting my time." The word scam hit me like a slap. I've spent 15 years building this station's reputation, fair prices, honest service. To hear it called a scam in my own store stung, but I swallowed the urge to snap back. "Mom, it's no scam," I said, gesturing to the register. "I can run your card manually inside, or you can call your bank. Happens sometimes, no big deal." "No big deal," she mocked, her voice climbing. "You're stealing from customers, and I'm not falling for it." By now, the trucker had set down his coffee, and Sarah was lingering by the door, phone in hand like she sensed a show coming. Karen leaned forward, her sunglasses slipping down her forehead. "I want to speak to the owner, not some clerk playing manager." I couldn't help a small grin. "You're speaking to him." "Mike, owner," like I said. Her eyes widened for a split second, then narrowed again like she'd been cheated out of a bigger fight. "This is ridiculous," she huffed, pulling out her phone. "I'm leaving a 1-star review right now. I'll shut this dump down." She started tapping furiously, muttering about incompetent hicks and fraudulent businesses. The regulars exchanged glances. Jenkins, still by his Chevy outside, shook his head through the window. I kept my cool, though my patience was thinning. "Ma'am, let's try the card here," I said, pointing to the register. "If it's declined again, we'll figure out the next step. No need for reviews." I nodded to Tommy, who slid the card reader toward her. Karen scoffed, shoving her card at me like it was a weapon. Fine, but if this doesn't work, you're giving me gas for free. I'm not paying for your broken equipment. I swiped the card, watching the screen. Sure enough, it flashed, declined. I turned it to show her. See, it's not the pump. Probably your bank. You got a number to call them. Her jaw dropped, then clamped shut. You're lying, she shouted, loud enough to make Tommy flinch. You rigged this whole thing to scam people! I'm not calling anyone. You fix it. The station was dead quiet now, save for the faint hum of the radio. Sarah had her phone up recording, and the trucker was inching closer, arms crossed. Karen's tantrum was drawing a crowd, and not the good kind. I took a deep breath, leaning on the counter. Mom, I've got no reason to scam anyone. This station's been here 15 years, and we don't play games. Try another payment, or we can't help you. My voice was firm, the kind I used when a supplier tried to short me on fuel. Karen didn't like that. You think you can talk to me like that? She yelled, stepping back. I'm a paying customer! You'll regret this. She spun toward the door, nearly knocking over a display of beef jerky, and stormed out, her heels clicking like gunshots. I thought that was the end of it. Another angry customer blowing off steam. I've seen plenty storm off, only to come back later with cash or a working card. But Karen wasn't done. Through the window, I saw her yank open her SUV's trunk, rummaging like she was on a mission. My gut twisted. Tommy, keep an eye on her, I said, heading for the door. Outside, the heat hit me like a wall, the smell of gasoline sharper now. Karen was still at her SUV, muttering to herself, her phone in one hand like she was filming or typing more reviews. Jenkins called over from his truck. You good, Mike? I nodded, but my eyes stayed on Karen. She slammed the trunk shut, holding something, a tire iron, glinting in the sun. My heart sank. This wasn't just a tantrum anymore. She marched back to pump 3, her face set like a woman possessed, and I knew my station was about to become her battlefield. I jogged toward her, waving a hand. Mom, whatever you're thinking, don't. Let's talk this out. But Karen wasn't listening. She raised the tire iron, her voice shrill. Your pump's gonna pay for this! I froze. The crowd around us, Sarah, the trucker, even the kids on bikes, watching in stunned silence. I thought she'd storm off, but Karen had a plan that would turn my station upside down. I've seen tantrums, but Karen smashing a pump and flooding my lot was next level chaos. The air at Mike's fuel stop crackled with tension as Karen stood by pump 3, tire iron raised like she was about to wage war. Her blonde bob was frazzled, her red jacket slipping off one shoulder, but her eyes burned with a fury that made my stomach lurch. The crowd, Sarah, the trucker, Jenkins, and those kids on bikes, stood frozen, phones out, capturing every second. The smell of gasoline was sharp, and the summer heat made it feel like the whole lot could ignite. I shouted, Karen, stop! You're gonna hurt someone! But she wasn't hearing me. This pump's a scam, and I'm done with it! She screamed, swinging the tire iron down. The first blow hit the pump's keypad with a sickening crunch, plastic splintering. Fuel hissed from the nozzle, dribbling onto the concrete. She swung again harder, smashing the display screen. Glass shards flew, and a gush of gasoline sprayed out, pooling fast. The acrid stench hit me like a punch, and panic set in. A spark, a cigarette, even a hot engine could turn this into a fireball. I sprinted toward her, heart pounding, yelling, Drop it, you're gonna start a fire. Karen didn't flinch. She swung a third time, the pump's metal casing denting with a clang. More fuel poured out, spreading across the lot in a shimmering, dangerous slick. Customers scattered. Jenkins hobbled back to his Chevy, the trucker pulled the kids away, and Sarah kept filming, shouting, She's lost it. Karen, oblivious, kept screaming, You deserve this, you crook. This'll teach you to scam me. Her voice was unhinged, like the pump had personally ruined her life. She raised her phone with her free hand, filming the wreckage, narrating, This is what happens when you mess with me. I reached the pump, my boots slipping in the fuel. The spill was spreading, maybe 10 gallons already, creeping toward a storm drain. I grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall by the station door, my hands shaking but steady enough to grip it. "Karen, back off now," I roared, aiming the nozzle at her, not to spray but to make her think twice. She laughed, a sharp, bitter sound, and swung again. That's when I hit the emergency shut-off valve, a red lever by the pump. The fuel flow stopped with a groan, but the damage was done. The lot glistened with gasoline, a hazard that could shut me down if it wasn't contained. I fumbled for my phone and dialed 911, my eyes never leaving Karen. "Mike's fuel stop," I told the dispatcher, voice tight. "Woman smashing a pump, gas is spilling everywhere. Vandalism, public safety risk. Send help fast." Karen, still filming, spun toward me. "You're calling the cops?" "On me! I'm the victim here! Your pump declined my card!" Her logic was so twisted it almost made me dizzy. "You're flooding my lot," I shot back. "That's thousands in damage and you're risking lives." She scoffed, tossing her hair. "Maybe you should have fixed your scam machine." The crowd was growing, regulars, passersby, even the diner cook across the street, all watching this train wreck unfold. I waved them back, shouting, "Stay clear, no smoking, no starting cars." The last thing I needed was a spark. Gasoline vapors hung heavy, stinging my eyes. I set the extinguisher down, ready to tackle Karen if she swung again, but she was pacing now, tire iron dangling, muttering about teaching lessons. Her SUV sat nearby, its glossy paint mocking the chaos she'd unleashed. I scanned the lot, my mind racing. A spill like this wasn't just vandalism. It was an environmental mess. Cleanup would cost thousands, not to mention the pump repairs. My station, my livelihood, was under siege because Karen couldn't handle a declined card. I'd seen entitled customers before, folks who yelled, who threatened reviews. But this was reckless, dangerous, insane. And she was still filming, like she thought she'd come out the hero. Sirens wailed in the distance, a faint hope cutting through the haze. Karen didn't seem to notice, too busy ranting to her phone. "This guy's running a scam," she yelled, pointing at me. "His pump stole my money?" The crowd murmured, some laughing, others shaking their heads. Sarah called out, "Lady, you're the one breaking stuff." Karen ignored her, but I caught Sarah's eye and mouthed, "Keep filming." Evidence was piling up, and I'd need every second of it. My boots were sticky with fuel, my shirt damp with sweat. I'd built this station from nothing, poured my life into it. Every pump, every shelf, every coffee-stained counter was mine, earned through years of grease and grit. Now, one woman's tantrum was threatening to burn it all down. Maybe literally. I clenched my fists, forcing myself to stay calm. Losing it now wouldn't help. I had to protect my customers, my business, my town. The sirens grew louder, red and blue lights flashing at the edge of the lot. Karen finally noticed, her smug grin faltering for a split second. She lowered her phone, tire iron still in hand, and glared at me. "You think you've won," she hissed. "This isn't over." I didn't answer, just pointed to the spill, the shattered pump, the crowd. "You did this," I said, voice low. "And you're gonna answer for it." 2 police cars pulled in, tires crunching on the gravel. Officers stepped out, one a familiar face. Dan, who'd grabbed coffee here during night shifts. He surveyed the scene, eyes widening at the fuel slick. "Mike, what the hell happened?" he asked. I nodded toward Karen, who was now backing toward her SUV, tire iron dangling like she might bolt. "She smashed pump 3, I said. "Declined card, lost her mind." That's the short version. Karen thought she'd made her point, but she was about to face a reckoning. Karen's smug grin faded when the police rolled up, and they weren't on her side. The red and blue lights of the patrol cars cut through the haze of gasoline vapors at Mike's fuel stop, casting stark shadows across the fuel-soaked lot. Karen stood by her shiny SUV, tire iron still in one hand, phone in the other, her blonde bob now a sweaty mess. The crowd, Sarah, the trucker, Jenkins, and a dozen others, watched in hushed anticipation, phones still recording. The pump she'd smashed lay in ruins, its shattered keypad and dented casing dripping with fuel. I stood by the emergency shut-off valve, fire extinguisher at my feet, my heart still racing from the chaos. The air smelled like a refinery, and my boots were tacky with spilled gas, but I felt a shift. This was my station, my town, and Karen's tantrum was about to hit a wall. Officer Dan, a regular who'd swapped stories over my coffee, stepped out of the lead car, his partner, a younger cop named Ruiz, right behind. Dan's eyes swept the scene. The glistening fuel slick, the wrecked pump, Karen's tire iron, and landed on me. "Mike, you okay?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. I nodded, wiping sweat from my brow. "Yeah, but she's not. Smashed pump 3 caused this mess. Declined card set her off." Karen's head snapped toward me, her face twisting. "That's a lie!" she shrieked, waving her phone. "He's running a scam! His pump stole my money!" Dan raised a hand, silencing her. "Mom, put the tire iron down now." His tone left no room for argument. Karen hesitated, her eyes darting to the crowd, then dropped the tire iron with a clatter, like it was someone else's fault. Ruiz picked it up, bagging it as evidence, while Dan approached the pump. He crouched, inspecting the damage, then stood, shaking his head. "This is bad, Mike. Spill's a fire hazard, and that pump's toast." "Got footage?" I pointed to the station's security camera above the door. "Clear as day, and half the lot's filming." Sarah waved her phone, grinning. "Got it all, officer?" Karen's bravado cracked. "You can't use that," she snapped, stepping towards Sarah. "That's private." Dan shot her a look. "Mom, you're in public destroying property. Stay put." He turned to me, lowering his voice. "Walk me through it." I took a breath, keeping my tone steady. Her card got declined at pump 3. Bank issue happens sometimes. I offered to run it inside, try another card, call her bank. She called it a scam, demanded free gas, then grabbed that tire iron from her SUV and went to town. I hit the shutoff and called you. Spills maybe 15 gallons, and she kept swinging even after I warned her about the fire risk. Dan nodded, jotting notes. Ruiz was talking to the trucker, who gestured animatedly, pointing at Karen. The crowd murmured, some chuckling at her nerve. Karen, now pacing by her SUV, was back on her phone, muttering, "This is defamation." I almost laughed. Defamation after she'd turned my lot into a hazmat zone. Dan called over. "Mom, we need your ID and a statement." Karen froze, then spun, her voice shrill. "I'm the victim. That pump provoked me." It wouldn't take my card. The crowd erupted in snickers, and even Ruiz cracked a smile. "Provoked?" Dan repeated, eyebrow raised. "Mom, machines don't provoke. You vandalized property and endangered lives. That's reckless endangerment, maybe a felony. With this spill," he gestured to the fuel, now seeping toward a curb. I chimed in, "Pump's worth about $5,000, Dan. Cleanup's another chunk plus environmental fines." She knew the risk. I told her to stop. I kept my voice firm, citing what I knew from years of dealing with regulations. Vandalism could mean restitution, and reckless endangerment carried jail time if the damage was severe enough. Dan's radio crackled, and he stepped aside to call for a tow truck. Karen's SUV was blocking the lot and needed to go. Ruiz pulled up the station's footage on a tablet, the grainy video showing Karen's rampage in brutal clarity, her swinging the tire iron, fuel spraying, me running with the extinguisher. Sarah and the trucker handed over their videos too, each one a nail in Karen's coffin. The evidence was airtight, and she knew it. Her pacing stopped, and she leaned against her SUV, sunglasses back on like they could hide her. Dan approached her, cuffs in hand. "Mom, you're under arrest for vandalism and reckless endangerment." Karen's jaw dropped. "Arrest? For a broken pump?" "This is outrageous!" she flailed as Ruiz cuffed her, reading her rights. "You can't do this! I have a lawyer!" The crowd cheered, Jenkins clapping like he'd won a bet. Sarah yelled, "That's what you get." as Karen was led to the patrol car, her heels dragging. The tow truck rolled in, hooking her SUV, its glossy finish now a sad footnote to her meltdown. As the cops loaded Karen into the car, the diner cook jogged over with a tray of coffees for me and the staff. "Mike, you handled that like a champ," he said, clapping my shoulder. The trucker offered to testify, saying, "Ain't nobody deserves this nonsense." Sarah was already uploading her video, muttering about going viral. I thanked them, my chest tight with gratitude. This wasn't just my station, it was our town's hub, and these folks had my back. I looked at the mess, the fuel slick, the ruined pump, the crowd still buzzing. Karen's arrest felt good, but the real fight was ahead. Repairs, cleanup, keeping the station running. I'd need every ounce of grit to pull through, but with the town behind me I knew we'd make it. Dan clapped my shoulder before driving off, Karen glaring from the back seat. Her day was bad, but the worst was yet to come. Karen's stunt didn't just wreck my pump. It lit up the internet and our town. The patrol cars had barely pulled out of Mike's fuel stop, Karen cuffed in the back, when the lot buzzed with a new energy. The fuel slick shimmered under the fading sun, the smashed pump a twisted monument to her meltdown. My boots were still sticky, my shirt soaked with sweat, but the crowd, Sarah, Jenkins, the trucker, and a dozen others, lingered, their phones glowing as they uploaded videos. Sarah grinned, tapping her screen. "This is going viral, Mike. Fay pump smashing Karen's trending already." I shook my head, half laughing, half dreading the fallout. My station was a crime scene, but it was also the town's news stage. By evening, the story exploded. Sarah's video, synced with my security footage, racked up thousands of views on X, shared with captions like, entitled "Karen Destroys Gas Station," and "Don't Mess with Mike." Local news vans rolled in, their cameras panning the damaged pump as a reporter interviewed me. "Mike, how'd you keep your cool?" she asked, meek in my face. I shrugged, wiping grime off my hands. This station's my life. I wasn't letting one tantrum ruin it. The segment aired that night, painting Mike's fuel stop as a symbol of resilience. On X, users piled on, dubbing her gas station Karen, with memes of tire irons and spilled fuel flooding the platform. The town rallied like I'd never seen. Jenkins, who'd been filling his Chevy since I opened 15 years ago, started a donation jar at the diner labeled, "Fix Mike's Pump." By morning, it was stuffed with bills, 5s, 10s, even a few 20s from truckers passing through. The diner cook organized volunteers to help with the spill cleanup, hauling absorbent pads and buckets while hazmat crews handled the heavy stuff. Sarah's diner shift turned into a rally point, with customers streaming to my station, some buying gas they didn't need just to show support. "You're one of us, Mike," the trucker said, handing me a coffee. "We got you." My chest tightened. This wasn't just business, it was family. Karen, meanwhile, was sinking fast. Someone on X identified her, Karen Wheeler, a sales rep at a local car dealership. Her name spread like the fuel she'd spilled, and her dealership's phone lines lit up with complaints. By noon, they'd fired her, their statement citing conduct unbecoming. Karen's own social media didn't help. She posted a rambling video, sunglasses on, claiming she was provoked by my scam pump and just defending herself. The internet tore it apart. Comments called her delusional Karen and tire iron queen, with one viral reply saying, "The only scam is your logic." Her accounts went private, but the damage was done. She was a pariah, her flashy jacket and SUV now punchlines. The legal fallout was just as brutal. Karen faced charges for vandalism, a felony, given the 5,000 zals in pump damage, and reckless endangerment for the fire hazard. I'd learned enough from regulations to know the stakes. Vandalism could mean up to a $2,500 fine plus restitution, and the spill triggered environmental fines for improper fuel disposal. Cleanup costs, between hazmat crews and disposal, were climbing toward 10,000, all on her tab. My insurance would cover some, but Karen's restitution loomed large. The police report, backed by videos and my statement, was ironclad. Dan, the officer, stopped by to update me. "She's got a court date next month," he said, sipping my coffee. "No way she's wiggling out." The station itself was a mess, but we pushed forward. Pump 3 was cordoned off, its twisted remains a reminder of Karen's wrath. I worked with a repair crew, estimating a week to replace it. The spill cleanup dragged on, with volunteers and pros scrubbing the lot to avoid fines. Yet business boomed. Regulars doubled their visits and new faces showed up, drawn by the viral story. A biker gang rolled in, their leader saying, "Heard you stood up to a Karen. Respect." They bought $200 in gas and snacks, tipping Tommy like he was a rock star. The donation jar hit $3,000, enough to offset some repair costs. I was floored. My little station, battered but unbroken, was stronger than ever. X kept the story alive. Posts dissected Karen's meltdown, with threads on ours entitled "People hitting thousands of upvotes." One user wrote, "Mike's the hero we need, calm, fair, and didn't let her win." Another shared a photo of my station, captioned, "Support this guy." The hashtag #FayMikeFuelStop trended alongside #FayPumpSmashing Karen, turning my pumps into a symbol of defiance. I wasn't much for social media, but Tommy showed me the posts, grinning. "Boss, you're famous." I laughed, shaking my head. "I just want my pump back." Karen's downfall was the talk of the town. Her neighbors gossiped, her former coworkers spilled tea on X, and even the kids on bikes mocked her, reenacting her tire iron swings with sticks. She'd tried to bully her way through, but she'd picked the wrong fight. My station wasn't just concrete and nozzles. It was the heart of a community that wouldn't bend. Every coffee handed to me, every dollar in that jar, every customer who said, "Keep going, Mike," proved it. As the sun set on the lot, the fuel stench fading, I leaned against the station door, watching cars pull in. The news vans were gone, but the support wasn't. I thought about Karen, probably stewing in her lawyer's office, facing fines and shame she'd brought on herself. Her court date was coming and justice was ready to hit hard. Karen thought she could bully her way out, but the law had other plans. A month after her tire iron rampage at Mike's fuel stop, the courthouse steps were packed with locals, some holding signs saying, "Justice for Mike." I stood outside, my work boots swapped for a clean pair of jeans and a button-up, feeling out of place among the suits. Inside, Karen faced the consequences of her meltdown, and I was there to see it through. My station was back on its feet, but this moment, watching accountability hit, was the final piece. The town had rallied, the internet had roared, and now the gavel was ready to fall. In court, Karen looked smaller without her sunglasses and red jacket. Her blonde bob was limp, her face pale as she stood before the judge. The prosecution laid out the case: vandalism for the 5,000 pump she'd smashed, reckless endangerment for the 15-gallon fuel spill that risked a fire, and environmental violations for the cleanup mess. My security footage played on a screen, showing her swinging the tire iron, fuel spraying, and me running with the extinguisher. Sarah's video followed, capturing Karen's rants about scams and teaching lessons. The crowd in the gallery, Jenkins, Sarah, even the trucker, murmured as the evidence piled up. Karen's lawyer tried to spin it, claiming she was distressed by the declined card and acted impulsively. The judge, a no-nonsense woman with steel gray hair, wasn't buying it. "Distress doesn't justify endangering lives or destroying property," she said, her voice sharp. Karen pleaded guilty, likely hoping for leniency, but the penalties hit hard: a 3,000 fine, $1,000 in restitution to cover pump repairs and part of the cleanup, and 100 hours of community service cleaning public spaces, parks, roads, maybe even gas stations, just not mine. The judge added a lifetime ban from Mike's fuel stop, which drew a chuckle from the gallery. As Karen was led out, head down, the room felt lighter. Justice wasn't just served, it was savored. Back at the station, we celebrated. Pump 3 was replaced, its new keypad gleaming under a reinforced guard I'd installed to prevent future Karens. Extra security cameras went up, their lenses a quiet promise of protection. The lot, once a fuel-soaked hazard, was clean, the environmental fines covered by Karen's restitution and my insurance. Business was better than ever. Regulars packed the pumps, new customers rolled in, and the donation jar, now retired, had left us with $3,000 to upgrade the coffee machine. Tommy, grinning, hung a sign by the register, "No tire irons allowed." Customers laughed, snapping photos, and Fame Mike Full Stop kept trending on X. I took a moment to reflect, leaning against the counter as the radio played low. Running this station wasn't just about gas or profits. It was about respect. Respect for the folks who filled up here, for the community that showed up when I needed them, for the work I'd poured into this place. Karen's tantrum had tested that, but it also proved something bigger. Entitlement doesn't win when people stand together. The volunteers who scrubbed my lot, the customers who donated, the cops who backed me, they were the real story. Karen thought she could bulldoze her way through. Instead, she'd fueled our resolve. The moral hit me hard, and I wanted it to stick with everyone who heard this story. Karen's recklessness came from a place too many know, a belief that rules don't apply, that a declined card or a bad day justifies chaos. But actions have consequences, and no amount of yelling or tire irons changes that. Standing up for what's right, whether it's a small business or a principle, takes grit, but it's worth it. My station was proof battered, but stronger, because we didn't let her win. I hoped anyone reading or hearing this would feel that, maybe even carry it into their own fights. The station hummed with life now. Sarah stopped by, her diner apron swapped for a T-shirt, and handed me a coffee. "You're a legend, Mike," she said, nodding to the bustling lot. Jenkins, filling his Chevy, tipped his hat. The trucker, back for another haul, bought a slushie and said, "Keep this place going." Even the kids on bikes zoomed past, shouting, "Mike's the man." I smiled, the weight of the past month lifting. This wasn't just my victory, it was ours. On X, the story still simmered. Posts praised the court outcome, with Fed pump smashing Karen fading as Fame Mike Full Stop rose. One user wrote, "Mike's station is what America's about. Hard work, community, no BS." Another shared a photo of my new pump, captioned, "Karen lost, Mike won." I wasn't one for the spotlight, but seeing my station celebrated felt good. It reminded me why I'd bought this place 15 years ago, to build something real, something lasting. If you love this story, hit that like button, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to ring the bell for more. Tell me in the comments, have you ever faced a Karen? What happened? Your stories keep this community alive just like mine did. As the sun dipped low, painting the lot gold, I stepped outside, the familiar hum of pumps greeting me. The air smelled of gas and possibility, not destruction. Karen was gone, fined, humbled, picking up trash somewhere, but Mike's Fuel Stop stood tall. In a town built on hard work, one Karen's tantrum only fueled our resolve.